And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cotton Price versus Grum Boys. Step forward, please.
Medical assistant Victoria Cotton and tax assistant Dane Price are suing their former roommate, bartender Angela Grumboyce, for overcharging them for rent and emotional distress.
Who is speaking for the two of you?
That would be myself, Your Honor.
And you are?
Victoria Cotton.
All right, Miss Cotton, you and Mr. Price rented a room, answered an ad and rented a room from the defendant. And it is your claim that you were overcharged in rent and some other nonsense about her not telling you about her past, which you think she should have told you before you rented the room. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Let me take care of that part first.
Okay.
You're not entitled to know the social criminal background of anybody who is your landlord. You're renting a room, she doesn't have to tell you whether she suffers from any illness whatsoever. Nor does she have to give you information regarding any, if she had any, prior activities with law enforcement or social services. You're not entitled to that. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. Now let's talk about the rent. When did you answer this ad, and when did you move in?
I answered the ad on April the 23rd. I moved into her home on April the 30th.
Who moved in?
I did, Your Honor.
Just you?
Yes.
So what's he doing here?
I've been living there since January.
With her?
No.
So what are you doing there as plaintiff?
I was being overcharged in the beginning, but I didn't even notice it because I was at work all the time. She brought it to my attention.
So the two of you moved in separately?
That's correct.
And you're both suing her for overcharging you rent?
That's correct.
Tell me what kind of an apartment this was.
It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was to include laundry and kitchen privileges.
Uh-huh.
When I met with Ms. Grumboyce, I stated to her that I had 2 children. One would be with me constantly. The other one was going to be with me on a part-time basis.
And when did you move in?
January 1st.
Okay. And what was the rent that you agreed on?
$475.
And what rent were you paying?
I was paying $500, Your Honor.
Now, why do you think she was overcharging you in rent?
When I first interviewed with her, she had stated to myself and to Mr. Price that we were all going to be paying equal shares of rent and utilities. Shortly after I had moved in, I had noticed some behavior and things that caused me to investigate further. I went to her manager's office at the apartment complex and I inquired as to what the rent was. She told me that the rent was $1,200 a month. Well, with my $500, Mr. Price's $475, I calculated that she was paying $200 to $225. I also know that previous tenants before me paid $550, which means that she paid even less.
And how many months did you live there?
I lived there for 2.
And how many months did you live there, sir?
6.
Okay. So let me tell you a little about what the law is. This is not a rent-controlled situation. This is not a situation where the government does oversight when someone rents rooms in their apartment or even rents rooms in their house. Let's say you're renting an apartment in a big apartment building, and you want to negotiate the rent with the landlord who wants to charge you $500 a month. And the landlord says to you, listen, I have to charge you $500 a month rent because it costs me $400 a month in order to maintain each unit. So in order for me to make any profit, I have to charge you $500. And you agree to pay $500. Later, you find out that it only costs the landlord $300 a month to maintain each unit. You think that you can go back to the landlord and say, I want a reduction in my rent. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. If it's true that she said that to you, that you were going to be sharing the rent equally, that's what they call in the trade puffing. That's like when you go to buy a car and the salesman said, listen, the car costs us $26,000. I'm giving it to you for $50 over that price. And you say, okay. And then you find out that instead of making $50 on the car sale, he made $550 on the car sale. You think he's going to give you back your money? She was cutting her rent. There's nothing wrong with that.
Your Honor, she herself is not even on the lease. She's lived there for 10.5 years.
Yeah.
Then I come to find out we are not even supposed to be there. Her contract specifically states that she is not to be subleasing, although her management company claims that they know that she has roommates.
Okay, fine. That's not why you moved out. You weren't evicted, were you?
No.
Left on your own. She's allowed to do what she's doing. There's no oversight. So you don't have a lawsuit. Do you understand that? But that's the law. Do you understand that that's the law, whether you agree with it or not?
I understand.
That's what the law is. So you're not living there anymore. Go, be happy, have a nice life. Forget it. Goodbye. You were lovely. You presented a very good case.
Yeah, right.
Victoria lied about that I agreed to split it 3 ways with her when she moved in. That was a flat-out lie.
I have no comment.
I thought that she should pay a little more than a third because she has 2 children that have been living in my home as well as herself.
Actually, I have no comment at this point.
She didn't think that she should have to pay more than a third, and I said, whoa, wait a minute, and it was only $21.04 more.
I'd like to reserve my right to have no comment at this time. Thank you.
Business is business.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hardy versus Beaton. Step forward, please.
Groundskeeper Robin Hardy is suing Judy Beaton for dumping horse manure on her car. Judy admits she vandalized the car, but says Robin intentionally spooked her horse.
All right, Miss Beaton, I think we're going to start with you because you seem to acknowledge that you did, in fact, touch in some way the plaintiff's car. And you're going to tell me why you did that. Tell me when this incident happened and where you were.
Yes, Your Honor. It was March 12th. I was riding my horse on this road. I have photos if you'd like to see them.
Yes?
It's a very narrow, windy road with no sidewalks or sidebar to get off of the pavement. And I was almost back to my barn. I have to travel on the road about 100 yards from the trail to the barn. So I was just about to the driveway of the barn when I hear someone beeping in back of me 2 times, very long honking. My horse kind of caved in the back and took off down the road at a quick pace. And I wasn't ready for that, you know, and I was almost toppled off. And I turned and I saw someone with a black car. And I yelled at the person. I said, "What, are you crazy?" And the person yelled back at me.
Person was the plaintiff.
Yes. I said something like, "What, are you, a freaking idiot?" And she said, "Get out of the road," and passed me very close. As she passed me, she cut the wheel hard, almost hitting my German Shepherd dog who was in front of me, and sped off down the road. I tried to get a plate number, but I could just get a few initials, so that was it. And I went back to the barn, and I untacked my horse and put my horse away. I was really upset about it. You know, my heart was pounding, and I've broken several bones on my horse before, and I have 4 children at home to take care of, so...
You took the saddle off your horse, and what did you do?
I got a bag, green bag here, and I put horse manure in it, and I started to drive home, thinking I might run into her car or her, because I thought maybe she was going to walk her dogs that were in the car at the reservoir down the road. So as I drove home, I did see her car. It was the only car in a parking lot marked DPW vehicles only, so it wasn't very hard to find it. And I pulled in next to it, and I took out the bag out of my car here. It's a paper bag. It's not going to cause any damage. And I had horse manure in the bag, and I shook the horse manure onto the trunk of the car, and I got in my car, and I drove away.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I do not have a trunk of a car, and I find it ridiculous that she'd be driving around with horse manure looking for trouble.
Tell me what happened.
Okay, I was driving down the road with my dogs to take them to the res for a walk, and I was going around a corner, and I seen the defendant in the middle of the road. I've had horses. I know horses will spook if the wind blows. So I stopped. She didn't notice me, so I beeped real lightly, 2 quick beeps, and she turned around. She didn't even move. She turned around and screamed, "What, are you an effing idiot?" So I slowly went around her, and I yelled back to, you know, get to the side of the road, wherever I yelled. I went to the res, walked my dogs, came back, and my hood windshield was covered with horse manure. Flipped out.
That was flaky, that flaky horse manure that she has there, or was it other kind of horse manure?
It wasn't that flaky.
What was it?
It wasn't wet, fresh horse manure.
It was more like that.
Yeah, but
Okay.
not quite as dry and fluff.
Okay.
And
So what did you do?
I called the police. They came down. They
And
helped
your
me.
windshield was covered.
Yes, and where the blades are, the wipers, it was packed in there. So that night, actually, I had to go somewhere, and I put my heat on. You could hear all the horse manure in the engine spitting out at me. I mean, I was really upset about it.
How did you find her?
I went to the stable the next day.
Because you figured it was her.
Yes, and I went there and seen her with her horse and told her. She stated it was not her. She's a school teacher. She has 2 kids. She wasn't even there at the time. She doesn't have a German Shepherd dog. And then the next day I went back there to tell the property owners, you know, what people are doing. I seen the nephew, and he told me that she was there, and she does have a black dog.
Okay, so she ultimately fessed up that it was her.
Exactly.
Okay, what kind of damage was done to the car, other than the mess?
I have pictures. Would you like to see them?
Yes.
Okay. The dent's right here. It's black, so it's hard to see. It's right there. There's 2 pictures there with the dent on it. And the third one is just a side profile of the car to see the condition.
Did you get an estimate on fixing it? It's hard to see.
Yes.
Can I see
have
the
2 of
estimate,
them.
please?
Yes. In fact, I went with the lowest estimate. I tried to be so reasonable with these people.
Okay. Anything you want to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor. The reason I didn't admit that it was me the next day at the barn is because she brought her husband with her, and they both came walking at me with scowls on their face, wanting to know who this girl was. So I denied it because I was at the barn by myself. And I said, if you do find this girl, I said, what do you want from her? And they both said almost in sync, we just want an apology. Then as the days went on, it went to $1,100 for a new hood.
$685.
It went down. There was several estimates.
That's what happens when you have estimates.
So actually, I went to the police because she was relentless to the owners of the barn, showing up, wanting my name and address. I had given her my cell phone number that day at the barn because I wanted to take it off of the owner and let her deal with me. Because I figured she would find out that it was me and I would be the one.
Okay, so you finally fessed up. Why did you go that extra step? I'm just curious, Ms.
I was
Beaton.
just very upset, and I don't know. I was sorry after I did it, but it was too late.
It's the wrong thing to do. Go ahead.
So we actually had a conference call, Your Honor, with the Wilmington Police Department to settle this because it just went
I have that police
on.
report.
I'd like to see it.
It went on and on for days and maybe a week and a half, and I just want it to be over. So Officer from Wilmington Police Department.
It's the first paragraph, Your Honor.
Just a minute. Go ahead.
I had to go and file a no trespass order against Robin because she wouldn't stop going to the barn, and the owners were pressuring me to get rid of her because they were busy. They have children, and they didn't want her constantly stopping over there. So I filed a no trespass order against the barn address, not my address. And when I was at the Wilmington Police Department, he asked me if I would be interested in settling this, and I said yes. The next day, he called me at home, and we were both on the phone with Officer. And we talked, and I said, you know, I didn't damage your car. I may have put the manure on it. I did not dent your car. It's soft. I didn't do it.
Oh, but when you put the whole bag on the car in order to get it out, it dented the hood. It may have been very light stuff that was poured on it, but when all of it is in a bag and you fling it on a hood in order to spread it around, it caused a dent. Caused a dent, and you have to pay. And it was a stupid thing to do, Ms. Beaton. So you have to pay for stupidity. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $685. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
What can I say? I think it's outrageous that school cheeses drive around with horse manure
I still don't believe that it caused a dent. I think it was already there because her car's 6 years old.
and dump it where they want when they're in a bad mood.
I thought I might teach her a little lesson.
She's an idiot.
Fear for my safety, fear of falling off backwards off my horse.
I wanted to find her and choke her.
Don't take the law into your own hands, maybe?
She is an idiot, that's all I have to say.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sharon versus Johnston, step forward, please.
18-year-old student Courtney Sharon is suing her former co-worker, 25-year-old animal hospital manager Felicia Johnston, for destroying her homecoming gown.
Ms. Sharon, according to your complaint, you loaned the defendant a dress. It was a formal dress that you had worn to your homecoming party or something, some other such thing. And she returned it eventually ruined. You want her to pay $500. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I returned
And I didn't ask anything yet. And Ms. Johnston, is your claim that you believe that she didn't want the dress back when she ultimately said she wanted it back, you put it in a bag, and you gave it back to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you lend her the dress? Under what circumstances did you lend her the dress, and when did you ask for it back?
I lent her the dress. It was around August of 2001 when she was hired at the clinic, and she was my
What
boss.
clinic?
Telge Road Veterinary Clinic. It's a member of the Pet's Choice Company. They have
So she was hired at the same place that you were working?
Yes.
How come she asked you for a dress? Tell me
There
when.
was a Pet's Choice event that she needed a formal gown for, and of the people who worked at the clinic, I was most close to her size, I guess.
Where were you when she asked? I mean,
we
you
were at
alone?
work. So
Were you, I know you have a fixed agenda. Listen to me. Did she come to you individually and ask you for a dress, or did she say to a group of people, anybody have a dress I can borrow?
it was in a group setting, but she asked me specifically.
And you said?
I said, as long as you return it dry cleaned in the condition that I loaned it to you, which didn't seem like it would be that difficult to do, then I don't mind.
Fine.
You know, I really didn't want to, but she's my boss, so.
How many times had you worn it?
I had worn it once for about 3 hours, and it had been dry cleaned afterwards and kept in a cedar closet, wrapped
Is that
up.
the way you gave it to the defendant?
Yes. I have photographs of the dress, you know,
Okay.
what it looked like
Let me
when I
take a
loaned
look
it
at
to
it.
you. And
when did you first ask for it back?
About 2 weeks after she wore it, and she said that it was at the dry cleaners, which I assumed to be a pretty logical explanation to where the dress was.
Okay, good. And so you asked for it 2 weeks later, and then again?
Again, about a month later, and then about 2 months later, and 3 months later. And in the meantime, she started to sabotage my job, and I quit. And at that point, I really got after her about getting it back, and she kept saying it was at the dry cleaners. She wasn't
Let
real
me see the
specific.
dress.
If you look at the bottom hem, she pulled it down and then tried to hot glue it back together, and the lining is ripped.
Bird, would you hand this back to the plaintiff and ask her to point out on the dress where it's ruined?
Thank you. There's little rips and tears in the fabric, but the thing
No, I want you to show me exactly where.
Okay.
The big thing that you're talking about is what?
If you look at the bottom hem, it's totally seared off right here, and it's been let go. There's a big rip right there, and the hem has been let down and then tried to reattach with hot glue.
She's shorter than you are.
I don't know why she would do this.
Listen to me. She put a hem on your dress.
Yes, with hot glue. And also, there's these huge rips in the lining.
Well, she did that because she couldn't shorten the dress without cutting the lining.
Yeah, and
right?
then there's a big old rip right here.
I can't hem. I can't sew.
Apparently
I have no
not, because she used hot glue to hem.
I'm
not speaking to you.
Yeah.
I have no creative bone in my body. I didn't hem it. I wear big heels.
Just a second.
Okay.
Clearly, the dress was, somebody attempted to make the dress shorter. Could have been Velcro that somebody tried to iron.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
There was in the lining right there, because when I stepped up on a step, I had on big heels, and I did step on the lining, and it did tear the lining.
So then you tried to fix it.
That was the only thing that was torn was the lining, and I did try to fix the lining, yes. But since it's mesh, you can't really sew it.
Would you like to see
this? Yes. Now, let me take a look.
And if I can have my mom, she'll testify to the condition it was returned in. The dress,
well, I see it now. You didn't have it
out
clean.
the way that it looked.
You didn't have it clean, did you?
No.
Oh.
She didn't either.
Oh, I see what happened. Your heel went through the dress.
Right.
It's happened to me.
If she would have
I was wearing my own dress.
It would have been okay.
Short.
Okay. Here you go. Thank you. Give it back to her. Okay. How did she return it to you?
It was wadded up in a plastic grocery bag, and it wasn't handed to me. It was thrown at me by Sandy.
Okay.
And she told me she didn't want to hear anything else about the damn dress.
This is Sandy. And it was given to you in a shopping bag, grocery bag.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, I'll hear from you.
Basically, I was invited to a play that we had to do for work. And we were in my office, and we were discussing that I needed a dress. Never asked anybody for a dress. I have one at home that I was talking about. I just needed a shawl. The next day, she came in with a dress that had a shawl, and she said, I have this one. She is known for kissing up and what have you with the doctors that had worked there before I got there. So she brought me in this dress, and I was like, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable borrowing a dress. And she said, well, don't worry about it. I don't wear it anymore. I've only worn it once. So I borrowed it. A week later, I borrowed it. It was at home. A week later, she asked me about it, and I said, yes, I was going to get it dry cleaned for you. There was no agreement beforehand. I said, yes, I was going to get it dry cleaned for you. She said, don't worry about it. I won't ever wear it again anyway.
You ultimately returned the dress to her in a shopping bag.
Yes.
Wrong!
Right. No, you're right. You're exactly right.
That's why I'm here.
Right. But
that's why I'm here. You borrow a dress, you do the responsible thing. If you're the responsible adult, and she's the young associate, you do the responsible thing. You borrow a dress, you wear it, you take it to the cleaners, you have it cleaned, and you return it.
Right.
Now, you were probably embarrassed because you would rip the dress, sort of let it slide. That doesn't mean that your dress, Miss Sharon, appreciates in value. It's not an antique. Let me explain something to you. You didn't spend $500 for that dress.
I spent more than that. I have records and everything.
Oh, well, I'd like to see.
Okay,
I'd like to see the bill and the check that you wrote for that dress for $500.
We don't have the bill and the check because you can't return formal gowns, but about a week ago, my grandmother went to the Jessica McClintock store.
Listen to me.
Yes.
I want to see your check or a paid bill for how much you paid for the dress. What?
Sandy was there. I asked Courtney, I said, okay, it was a misunderstanding. When I asked you or told you about the dress, she said, don't worry about it. I won't ever wear it again. So I didn't. I mean, I honestly didn't. I go to work. I go to school. I have a 3.5-year-old.
I don't care.
Whatever. Yeah. So anyways, so she told me the dress was $150. The dress was $150. Sandy heard it. So I said, okay, well, since it was a misunderstanding, I'll pay you $75. That was before she quit. I went to a meeting 2 days later. I get a call from my receptionist, whoever, saying that Courtney never showed back up for work again, blah, 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 blah. Her mother starts calling saying she's a marketing saleswoman and needs the number to my corporate office. They're writing letters, trying to get my corporation to pay for it. The dress went from $150 to $300 to $500 to $700.
She ruined the dress.
Exactly.
She ruined the dress. She didn't ruin the dress on purpose, by the way, by putting her heel through it.
No,
of course
That was, she didn't ruin it on purpose, but if she would have said to you immediately, listen, I ruined the dress. There's no point in having it cleaned because you're not going to be able to wear it because you're taller than I am.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be, unless you put beading all around the bottom or something
Yes.
else, which you could do. I mean, if you ever wanted to wear this dress again, you can do it. There is a way of fixing it. But that would
We need to
involve
talk
you.
because I do want to do that.
What?
I would, if I could in any way salvage this gown. I
Oh,
would.
you can salvage it.
Yes.
Believe me, I've looked at it. Other than the bottom, which you need because you're a little
Well,
tall. I'm
yes.
speaking. Don't you understand when I'm speaking? I'm not interested in what you're saying. And neither is he. You can save that dress if that's what you want. And I believe you can save that dress for $250. You can put a nice border on the bottom and have it clean for $25, and then you have a brand new dress that you put back. So I'm giving a judgment for $250 because I think that the dress is worth at least that in salvage. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's really sad when adults can't take responsibility for their actions.
Courtney would show up harassing my clinic, harassing my clients.
I wore it with my high school sweetheart. It had a lot of special meaning to me.
She says she was with her high school sweetheart and she's had more than I can count.
She started to blackmail me. She started writing bad letters about me to the company and bad-mouthing me to the other employees.
She quit working for me because she wanted to be a beer tub girl at a club, and she was doing ecstasy and drinking on the side as well.
I guess now I'm going to have to be more suspicious of people, whether they seem to be responsible adults or not, because sometimes they aren't.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Epps versus Ward. Step forward, please.
24-year-old bus driver Matisha Epps is suing her former friend, 22-year-old college student Melinda Ward, for an unpaid loan for a car.
Well, there's certain things, Miss Epps, in your complaint that I understand and some that I'm a little confused about. So let me start with what I do understand. You tell me if I'm correct. This was a friend of yours?
No, this is my cousin's girlfriend.
But she was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
And she wanted to buy a car?
Yes.
And she asked you for a loan for the down payment on the car?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wrote out a check for the dealership for how much money? $2,500?
$2,500.
And you post-dated the check?
Yes, Your Honor.
She said to you, according to your complaint, don't worry, by the time the date comes when the check is going to be deposited, I will have enough money so that I'll give it to you and the check will be covered.
No, Your Honor. She's supposed to pay it to the finance company.
So she was going to pay it herself so that they would never cash your check?
Exactly, Your Honor.
Well, she didn't do that.
No.
And they cashed your check?
Exactly.
And you were forced to make good on that check?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Ward says she called you before the time that they cashed your check and told you to put a stop payment on the check because she wasn't going to be able to come up with the money.
Yes, my ex-fiance called Matisha Epps a week prior to October 21st and asked her to place stop payment on the check. For whatever reason, she didn't do so.
Just a second, because you weren't going to have the money.
Yes.
Did he ever call you?
Yes, Your Honor, he did.
And what did he say when he called you?
He told me that they weren't going to have the money yet, and so I could put a stop payment on the check.
And why didn't you do that?
It was just like a couple of days in advance. I don't believe it was a week in advance. It was just like maybe a couple of days in advance when he called and told me that they weren't going to have the money. And by the time that I called the bank, it was too late. They had posted the check.
But he called you before.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you stop payment on it? Why didn't you call immediately that day?
I work 6 days a week and I work long hours.
If you work 6 days a week and long hours, it would seem to me that $2,500 is important to you. So now I understand, and I understand that you made the call. Did you, in fact, buy that car? Is not an answer.
Okay. Yes, I did buy the car.
Good. So you got the benefit of her $2,500. Is that right?
Yes.
So what difference does it make? What are you? Are you stupid? Is he stupid? If you said to me I couldn't afford to buy the car, and I didn't buy the car, but you bought the car using her $2,500, and now you don't think that you have to pay her back?
Well, had she have placed stop payment on the check, I wouldn't have even had the car.
Just a second. You're some piece of work. Now, what kind of moral character do you think that I believe that you have because you didn't pay her back the $2,500?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What does that mean you tried?
Well, after the check went through, my ex-fiance and I attempted to give her $200 in which she could have put towards the check. She said she didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
She gave us the number to call whoever the financial company that was dealing with the check. They didn't want to deal with us because it was her check. So we definitely tried.
Well, you're making payments now on the car, aren't you?
No, I don't have the car anymore.
Where is it?
It got totaled in an accident.
When?
Last July.
You think I should believe everything you're telling me?
I don't have a reason to lie.
Go ahead.
I also like to say, this is my cousin. Miss Epps is my cousin. I went to her house. We did the best we could, honestly.
No, you didn't. You did the best you could. You were driving around in a car that she paid for. The best you could is to pay her back the $2,500.
That's what I'm saying. When we realized that we weren't going to have all the money, we went to talk with her. We contacted her, and we also went to talk with her about that. I went to her with money in my hand. She said, because like she said, because she works and everything, I was under the impression that, you know, she didn't want to deal with it. She told me to deal with it, you know, the best way I could.
Did you ever hear the expression, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes.
That's what happened. They are two amoral people. I was sympathetic with them at first. If he called and said, listen, we don't have the money, and you didn't get around to calling and putting a stop payment on the check, but then they went ahead and bought the car and paid for it. How long did you drive that car before it was totaled?
A year.
And during that year, if they had said, every month I'm going to give you $200, you would have had your money.
Yes.
You didn't do that, did you?
Well,
the answer is yes or no. Did you do that?
We wasn't allowed to. No, we wasn't allowed to, Your Honor. If I can explain to you.
No, you can't explain to me.
Okay.
You mean to tell me that if every month you put $200 in an envelope and left it in her mailbox, that she would have taken the $100 bills and thrown them away? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No.
What kind of work do you do?
Right now, I'm a...
What kind of work do you do?
Actually, I'm unemployed right now.
Right.
I was a
right. You're unemployed right now. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lord. Step out.
My credit was damaged.
It's my cousin. I love her.
It took away from vacations for me and my kids.
Sorry about that, too.
I apologize. I hope you can forgive me.
I can. I have no hard feelings at all.
21-year-old assembly operator Monique Betker is suing the father of her son, 26-year-old machine technician Robbie Schwant, for the return of her furniture and for breaking her nose. Robbie is countersuing for car rims he inherited from his deceased brother.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 206 on the calendar in the matter of Betker versus Swant. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Betker, you and the defendant lived together for a couple of years, well over a year ago.
Yes.
And you have a child together. How old is the child?
Almost 2.
And it is your claim that the defendant owes you for furniture that he has that you believe was either yours or at least both of yours, and for an assault that you say he perpetrated upon you, causing you to have a broken nose and substantial medical bills. Mr. Schwant says that the furniture was his, and he says that you started the fight that resulted in whatever injury you had. As a matter of fact, the charges in that case, he says, were dismissed because you acknowledged to the court that you hit him first, and he is counterclaiming for something about his deceased brother's car rims, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, tell me about this separation in August of 2001.
He got possessive. I switched shifts to second shift, different plant. He accused me of cheating on him. I went out one evening after work with a couple of friends, and I come home the next day because I was too drunk to drive, and the door locks were changed.
Where was your child at the time?
My mother.
Is that when this incident happened that caused you to have a broken nose?
Yes, because I went the next day to receive my belongings, and we started arguing. He kept following me around the apartment. I noticed most of my stuff was broken.
So what happened?
I started packing up my clothes, and he was yelling at me, calling me obscene names, and he called me a word I didn't really like, and I threw a burp brake at him, and he come at me with a fist.
Threw a what?
A burp brake.
Yeah.
And then he punched me in my nose.
Your Honor, that's...
I'll let you tell the story.
Yes, sir.
And what happened next?
I called the cops. I have a copy of the police report.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it. Now, can you explain to me why you waited a year? Forget the incident involving your broken nose for a second, or this says bloody nose. You'll show me the bills later. Because I assume you went through a criminal proceeding?
I never actually went to court, Your Honor.
Really?
While I was in jail, the judge had reviewed the case and dropped all charges against me.
Do you have a report on that? Do you have any paperwork
Your
on that? How long were you incarcerated?
For 2.5 days.
Okay. What furniture do you claim that he has that belongs to you?
My living room set, my bedroom set, and other small belongings. Which
All right,
I have
let's start with living room set and bedroom set. Who bought it?
My mom bought the living room set. I bought the bedroom set.
Is that right?
The living room set, her mother gave both of us.
Yeah?
While we were together.
Okay.
The bedroom set she did have before we even got together.
So why didn't you give them back to her?
She took my son, and then over the next 2 months I wasn't able to see my son, so I had no contact with her whatsoever. And then later when I moved out, then she had more than ample time to come get her stuff. I had talked to her, so I ended up putting her stuff in storage at my own expense because I didn't have the heart to just leave it in the apartment and let it be taken.
So where is it now?
They're at my apartment.
Okay. She wants them back.
Well, the problem with that is I was given joint custody for my son.
I don't care. I don't care. The living room set and the bedroom set she wants back. Get it back to her.
Your Honor, she owes me several $1,000s.
For what?
For the tires and rims, for...
Just a minute. We're going to get to your complaints. I'm talking about things, not money. She has to get back her living room set and her bedroom set. They're hers. What else?
There's a list of Beanie Babies, some clothes. I've tried numerous of times to get my stuff back, and he come get it. Oh, don't come get it. Come get it.
Do you have her stuff? Someplace?
I have some of it at my apartment, some of it at my parents' house, and a lot of it I've given back to her already.
Okay. Whatever you have a child together?
Yes.
Do you share custody? I assume
yes.
Now at this point you share custody. So it's a very good idea to maintain nice relations with her.
I've been
Pleasant.
trying, Your Honor.
Very good. So pack up all the stuff in boxes. Tell her where she should go to pick them up. You live close to your parents?
No.
No. Your Honor, she's had more than enough ample time over the last year. I've told her several times
Listen!
to come get the stuff.
But what are you doing with it?
A lot of it was sitting in storage for 5 months.
Fine,
while
but
she
now
had
it's still
chance to-
there. Mr. Schwantz, I don't understand you, sir. Now it's there. You said you have some of it at your house. You have some of it at
Correct.
your parents' house. Right?
Yes.
Get it together and give it back to her. Are you telling me that it's being used?
Yes, it's being used in my home, which I'm providing for my son when I have him half the time.
Mr. Schwantz, I want you to understand my words. The bedroom set and the living room set are going back to the plaintiff.
Yes, Your
Do
Honor.
you understand? That is the order.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. As far as the other things are concerned, physical things, put them in boxes, and she's going to pick them up. And I'm going to suggest, Mr. Schwantz, that if you don't want to be an immature baby, you put them in boxes, wrap them up nicely, store them nicely, so that you don't have any quarrel with her. Because you have a child who's 2 years old, and for the next 16 years, you're going to have to get along with each other. So don't make a mountain out of a Beanie Baby. Do we understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, good. Then don't speak anymore. Now, you want to tell me, he says that it wasn't just a throwing of a rag in his face, that you slapped him first. Is that true?
That's false.
Want to tell me what happened?
We had gotten into an argument.
That I know.
Okay. The argument got heated. I called her, and she turned around. She had a rag in her hand and hit me with her hand. And after
The rag in it.
Yes, with the rag. She was holding it in her hand. She hauled off and slapped me across the face.
Slapped you. And what did you do to her?
I turned around and I slapped her back.
Slapped her or punched her?
Slapped.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her mother gave you the living room set.
Gave to both of us, Your Honor.
Didn't make any difference who you were. If she had chosen Bird, she would have still given her a living room set.
And later today,
She said, purchase me 2 tickets, so I did.
For Britney Spears concert.
He didn't tell me it was Indianapolis until he wanted me to pay for them.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monique Betker says the father of her son, Robbie Schwant, assaulted her, breaking her nose. Robbie says Monique hit him first.
Well, could your slap have caused her a broken nose?
Possibly.
Okay.
I'd never seen any reports of anything,
Well,
no
let me
doctor
see.
bills.
Let me see. Where does it say he had a broken nose?
They couldn't find that paper, but it does say that
It
I had a
doesn't
fractured
say. It
nose.
says no possible fracture. It says headaches, whatever, and it says no